Blog Talk Radio.
My body, my mind, my choice. To wear the clothes I like even as my spirit roams naked. My choice. To be a size 0 or a size 15. They don't have a size for my spirit, and never will. To use cotton and silk to trap my soul is to believe you can halt the expansion of the universe, or capture sunlight in the palm of your hand. Your mind is caged, let it free. My body is not. Let it be. My choice. To marry or not to marry. To have sex before marriage. To have sex outside of marriage. To not have sex. My choice. To love temporarily or to lust forever. My choice. To love a man or a woman or both. Remember, you are my choice. I'm not your privilege. The bindi on my forehead, the ring on my finger, adding your surname to mine, they're ornaments. They can be replaced. My love for you cannot. So treasure that. My choice. To come home when I want. Don't be upset if I come home at 4 a.m. Don't be fooled if I come home at 6 p.m. My choice. To have your baby or not. To pick you from 7 billion choices or not. So don't get cocky. My pleasure may be your pain. My songs, your noise. My order, your anarchy. Your sins, my virtues. My choices are like my fingerprints. They make me unique. I am the tree, not the forest. I am the snowflake, not the snowfall. You are the snowflake. Wake up. Get out of the shitstorm. I choose to empathize or to be indifferent. I choose to be different. I am the universe, infinite in every direction. This is my choice.
Hello. Hello, everybody. Greetings to everybody. As always, we'd like to give you all a warm welcome to today's show. I'm your host, of course, Faith, and you are hanging out with us live on Her Story 2. Welcome, everybody. Hey, Christina Vigate. Hey, Shazad. Is that Shaz? Okay. Well, hey, everybody. Today we have a special guest, y'all, so bear with me. She'll be joining us in a bit. Yes. Greetings to all our guests, all our listeners. Big shout out to all our friends and family over there in Twitter world, and all our friends on Facebook and Instagram. We absolutely love you all. As always, we're glad that you guys are hanging out with us live on today's show, and we're definitely looking forward to taking your calls as well. We'd like to hear from you as well. You know how we do. So I'll go ahead and give you the calling number, which is 515-602-9735. That is the number to call. Remember, everybody, if you're calling from outside the U.S., you need to dial the U.S. country code, and then that should get you right in. Okay, guess who's hanging out with us? We're hanging out with a special guest, none other than the founder of ProjectACEi, Alimatu Dimonekene, and we'll tell you a little bit about her just in a bit. I just need to give everybody all those, directions to be able to find their way here. And you all need to let me know, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So, okay, yes. If you want to join the chat, you just need to come on over to www.blogtalkradio.com/herstory2, and then you have to click on the link that says sign up, and that will get you right in, guests, and Christina and Meyer. Okay, you can actually do both. Okay, so welcome, everybody. I'm here hanging out with a special guest. I told you we're hanging out with the founder of ProjectACEi, Alimatu Dimonekene, and she's here with us. She's an advocate for women and girls. She works in the area of FGM, child marriage, early marriage, and other forms of gender-based violence. So, yes, it's a whole lot of, yes, it's a broad field, yes. So let's see if she's here with us, and let me know if you can hear her. Alimatu?
Hello, good evening from London, snowy UK.
Oh, yes, it's snowing here as well in Denmark, so we're in the same boat, man. I know. We have some listeners from California, and they never seem to talk about snow. So, I don't know about you all. Y'all just need to bear with us. And we're very optimistic, so we do get like a glimpse of sun, but it's that kind of sun that just kind of, it's like peekaboo, and then it disappears. But you love the snow. Look at that.
I know. I mean, I haven't been for so long in Africa, but when I saw snow for the first time, I was so happy, and I just fell in love with the weather. So I'm now fully blown British.
I know, it's strange, because, I'm also originally from Kenya. When I go home, I don't react to the heat as the locals react. I'm like, when it's super hot. I know. No, for me, it's the opposite, It's like, I don't get enough of the heat, Anyway, Alimatu, it's such an honor and a pleasure. Y'all, I'm going to just say a little bit about this amazing woman. We just, the world is a village, y'all. So we're glad that we bumped into her profile and we had to invite her on the show. She is, I told a little bit about her background. She's working in the area of FGM. FGM is Female Genital Mutilation. I know it sounds very, but we have to talk about it. And she's also the winner of True Hero Award 2015 for her work in tackling FGM. Alimatu has used her experiences as an FGM survivor in working extensively with key agencies, including the UN Women UK, the Home Office, Metropolitan Police, NHS, and the NSPCC. She's also worked with a number of respected authorities and media partners that are dedicated to safeguarding girls and women at risk. She plans to extend her work and become much more active in Sierra Leone, Democratic Republic of Congo and Liberia, supporting communities with strategies for eliminating violence against women and girls. So this topic and her work is why we're here today. We're talking about this today. And Alimatu, before we just dive right into today's discussion, I just want to welcome our co-host, Shaz. Shaz, are you there with us?
Yes, hello. How are you?
Shaz, are you here?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me? Hello?
Hold on.
Hello, I'm here. I don't know if you can hear me. Hello?
Can you hear me, Shaz? Can you hear me? Okay. Okay. So Shaz can hear us. Can you hear Alimatu? Well, say something, Shaz.
Yeah, but I just said something. Can you
Okay.
hear me? Can you hear me?
No, we can't
Hello?
hear you. We can't hear
No, I
you.
can't hear Shaz either.
Can you hear Alimatu?
Yes.
You can hear Alimatu? Okay. Well, she can hear you just fine. Okay, so we'll go ahead. Okay, I think we'll just start right from the beginning. What is FGM? What is female genital mutilation?
Well, female genital mutilation, it's an ancient practice, predates Islam and Christianity, and it's a practice which is predominantly, obviously, by its name, done to females. Now, it's the cutting or the partial removal of a female genital organ. Now, there are 4 types according to the United Nations. The first one, which is clitoridectomy, which is usually partially or totally, not always the case, where the clitoris of a girl child or a woman is either removed, pricked, tapped, sometimes it's nipped, as you heard in the sort of the California type operation, or just slightly cut off. The hood is what is usually taken off, because we have, in terms of women anatomy, the clitoris is like an umbrella, closed umbrella, and all you see is the top of the head of it. And type 2, which is excision, which is mainly what's done in West Africa, Central Africa, which is usually the cutting of the lips of the vagina, called the labia. There are 2 types, the inner lip and the outer lip. The inner lip is labia majora. The outer lip is labia minora. So sometimes that's removed. It's removed. And then type 3, which is usually what takes place in east part of Africa, the Middle East, which is type 3, called infibulation. Infibulation. This is done in Somalia, Kenya, Tanzania, Djibouti, Egypt, and some parts of Turkey, among the Kurdish community, where the girl's genital organ, sometimes, not always, the lips are removed, or the clitoris is removed, and the skin's pulled together, and it's sewn, and a tiny opening is left for females to either have a menstrual flow or urinate. So it's sealed really tight. In fact, the other name for it is the pharaonic type. Obviously, some people believe it originated from Egypt, so it's called the pharaonic type. And then you have type 4, where these are no other categories. There's no categories for it. So you have the likes of the pulling, which usually happens in Uganda, in some parts of Southern Africa, Botswana, or Mozambique, where the lips of the vagina is pulled so that you have elongated skin hanging on the female genitalia.
Can you hear me?
Now, in the United Kingdom, that is also FGM, that's female genital mutilation. And obviously, you have the other types like the studs, tattooing, piercing, when some people put rings on, some people put the diamond studs that we have in the UK, the VJJ or the Vijazzo. It depends which part of the world. Severity and other parts of the world, not just the UK, the severity that's done to the female genital organ, why the word FGM is used. Some communities don't like the term, but it's what makes it very relevant to women like myself who are survivors because of what it's done. So sometimes it causes a lot of complications, health complications, and sometimes times very difficulties for women, from sexual dysfunction to women having problems with bleeding to infertility, and obviously the obvious and the ultimate complication is those that die. So you die from heavy bleeding or have irregular periods, it depends. But it's a psychological. In some cases, the trauma that the girl child has to be subjected to while going through the practice, or even the woman, the complications sometimes that derive from the trauma and sort of the betrayal of family and communities that women have to be subjected. The overall aim of FGM in all its context is to control women's sexuality. It's only done for the fact that you are born a girl child. In many of these communities that practice FGM, the only reason, i.e., that you're either coming into womanhood, or you're being initiated into a society, or you're being made whole, or you're coming of age, or you're joining a community, all of the narratives that comes with all boils down to the control of women's sexuality. In fact, some may argue, including myself, our identity as being a female, because you're altering my body because you're not happy the way it looks. So in a nutshell, that's what FGM is.
Yeah, and you know, as you're talking, so like, Christina is actually typing and saying, so with all these horrific things happening, why do they continue this crazy practice? Those are just the exact direct words that Christina wrote. With all these things that are happening, the death, the infections, affecting your child's fertility, bleeding to death, how is it that these communities that practice FGM can still continue to practice it?
It's very complex. In many communities, obviously, in fact, the way FGM is done in many communities, including mine, it's not actually done to punish a girl or to actually control their sexuality. The belief is that you are marriage material and that my girl is special and that she is unique amongst all the other girls, and she will stand out because it's on a narrative of chastity, controlling virginity, that you have sex before marriage. So all of these things in some communities where FGM exists makes the girl child very special. Now, whether the girl child is a very infant child or a baby or an adult or a teenager, it doesn't matter. What matters most for these communities and why the practice continues, because the girl or the girl child is seen as a commodity, unique in some ways, but what will bring us honor, what will restore our status in our community, that she's a special girl, she didn't have sex before marriage, so any man who will marry her will have more respect for her. But unfortunately, that is not the case. In many of the cases where FGM exists, the woman is not given back her honor, while neither is she restored and be made whole in her community. She suffers as a result of the community and what the pressure of the community is on that woman, because woman is sort of seen as, in terms of the context of femininity, in terms of sexuality, everything boils down to the conduct of the woman. So why FGM exists in certain communities, including mine. So a lot of the communities do it out of love and thinking they were doing the right thing for the woman or the girl child, but in fact they're not. And it conforms to all the other stereotypes and the systems of belief, misogyny, patriarchal, sexual gender-based violence. If you want to look at it, in some cases, actual violence in a way to say to women, you have to remain in a situation, either be married to this person and you will not leave. If you take the type 3, for example, you are physically restricted from not having marital sex or sex before marriage until you're married. And in some communities, like in Sudan, Mali, the girl is sealed, and on the day of her marriage, she needs to be open. So it's a way for the man to prove that she's actually a virgin, which in some ways, a woman is penalized before she even gets into the sexual intercourse itself, in some ways. So it's very difficult. In some cases, the girl child is who brings all the respect to a family, and not so much as boys, because boys are seen as higher characters in their community, leaders in their community, while the woman is seen as very docile, subservient to the husband or the male sort of character in that family. Women have to bow to the male characters in that family, if I use that word for now. So in some ways, it falls within that context, which is why it has continued. It's because it's power. It's based on power, control, and dominance. It's the dominant sex in most communities. Mostly is the male. And in terms of politics, in terms of women's status in their society, it's always governed by a male dominance. And that's why this practice has existed. So it's taken away power from the woman or a girl child. Because if you, from an early age, a girl is told you are of no existence in our community until you become something or ascribe to this behavior or a cultural belief or practices that sort of box you or cage you or maybe surround you with a notion that you have to be designed by what your community wants you to be.
Yeah.
So you cannot get out of it.
And you mentioned some of the health implications of this practice, but I was also just thinking of what are some of the psychological effects? Because you could survive it, but still I think there's an extreme amount of trauma that has happened, and I'm sure there is much more that would happen. Can you shed some light? And I'm just going to combine some two questions as well so that you can answer those because they're typing really fast. So they're asking which religion practices this. So I'm going to let you touch on that as well after you touch on the psychological effects. And why do these African countries continue to do this? So maybe you want to also touch on the fact that it's not just an African problem and maybe share some other parts of the world where this happens. So those are kind of three questions combined, and you all continue to chat away. Go on.
Yeah. Well, in terms of FGM, there is no religion that requires one to have FGM. There is none. And FGM is practiced by all faiths, including Christians, Muslims, non-religious, practice FGM. FGM is not an Islamic practice, even though in certain communities where this is very prevalent and very sort of stands above every other cultural belief. It is not an Islamic practice. In terms of the psychological or the impact that FGM has, it ranges. I mean, you just have to see in the context. I can only speak in terms of my experience. I'm from Sierra Leone originally, and the practice of FGM is a very powerful practice. In fact, it's seen as empowering to women, believe it or not, because women see themselves. It's the only time women can come together, have a common voice and a common purpose, and can, in fact, in some cases, even demand for change in sort of crowning of a paramount chief, or even having a voice in how politicians are elected. The only problem, obviously, is that amongst these practices, there is one element, which is the cutting of the girl's genitalia. But in all other cases in Sierra Leone, FGM is sort of very paramount in a lot of things that people do. But in terms of trauma, in some cases, I mean, if you look at the practice of FGM, you have to open the legs of a girl child. So in many cases, that's the first time a woman, if we just use that word for now, or a girl, experiences sex. And it's usually forced. It's never talked about, so people don't know on the day, until the day it happens, what is going to be done. And even in some cases, women don't know that it's actually their genitals that will be cut. Sometimes they hear this cutting, they think, oh, it's just a scar, or maybe I'll be cutting something else, but it's still flesh, and no anesthesia or anesthetic is used, no preparation. So obviously you're in shock, and you're being told to lie down. Sometimes obviously you're going to fight. If you think somebody's going to use a sharp blade to your body, you're going to resist. And in resisting, obviously you have this reaction, because it's a reaction. You react and you're traumatized. You're like, what is this? What's happening? And so you react. It's a natural instinct that you have to fight back. And so those, if I just use that little bit of experience just for your audiences, anybody, if you find yourself in a situation where you cannot get out of, you're stuck, you're caught between a very dangerous situation where people are surrounded. If you're a child and you have all these grown-ups, adults around you, you're going to be frightened. So that fear goes into someone, actually stays with you for the rest of your life. And we know psychiatrists, psychologists have said any impact, especially when it comes to sexual, physical, emotional, because these are all emotional, because then after you've experienced FGM, you probably are laying there in your pool of blood thinking, what has just happened to me? And that stays with you. Your reaction, your emotions, the way you see life in terms of what this is, stays with you for the rest of your life. And you cannot even try to begin to explain what it is because you're thinking, what has just happened here? So some children grow into adulthood and will never sort of figure out what has happened. It takes a long time. So some people, just the sight of knowing what has happened to them, the vision, the smell, with any other abuse, because FGM is abuse, child abuse. And in some cases, you have the betrayal of your family. You are told not to tell anybody. And we know if anybody tries to, in the UK, for example, if I were to run down my local high street, grab a baby from a pushchair, open that baby's nappy and try and touch their private or their genitals, I will be listed on the sex offenders register for the rest of my life as a child abuser or a pedophile. So in some cases, when we talk to communities, we say what narrative you are giving the girl child from an early age. If the community can come together, sometimes not one, two, crowds of women will gather around a very vulnerable young person, peering down, looking down into their vagina. That in itself is demeaning. That in itself is a violation. Because even as adult women, we don't like people looking down at our private parts. And so time and time communities have used that as a way. So that even removes the pride of a woman. So you're a girl child and you think, well, everybody has seen me down below. So you walk the streets and you have no confidence. You're feeling everybody knows what I am. So even if you want to react against these very people, you can't, because the most private, the most sacred of our being has been invaded by many people, and they can do whatever they want to do because society says that's right. These are traditions that we have to uphold, and in many cases, women are victims, in most cases, of this practice. The men say, we don't know this is being done for us, or the men say, we don't know we have to have a woman who has FGM. We just grew one day and they said, this is who we need to marry. So again, the contrast there, men think they don't know, and women say we're doing it for the men. And I just think if we look at it from that angle and say, would anybody like to see that happening day in and day out? And in some cases, we don't know what, because if I'm fighting and I'm struggling for you not to touch me down below, and you have a knife in your hand or a blade or whatever you want to use to carry out the practice, you could injure somebody. And in some cases, many children have been damaged. And so that trauma also sets in because you think, what have I got down below? Doesn't look like everybody else's.
Yeah.
So,
is there any religion like attachment to this? Is it?
There's no religion.
Yeah.
There's no religion. It's just obviously people have religion because in most communities people respect religion. Mm-hmm. People have great place of religion in their life. So there's always a connection. And you find in most communities in controlling women and morality, which often is driven towards the side of women and not men, often uses religion. We use religion in how we comport ourselves. You're told if you're very you have FGM, you're a loose woman, promiscuous woman. But we know that's not true. And in fact, in most cases, women who have been through FGM, because they feel betrayed, because they feel, well, actually, there's nothing for me to do, so I'm just going to go out there and I'll just do anything and do anything, which in some cases put people in really difficult situations. Further exploitation kicks in. So we educate communities that actually it's not the right thing. If you think FGM would limit a girl's activity in terms of sexual activity, in fact, you would be pushing her more because then she can't feel or have any pleasure with sex. So she does it in a way of retaliation because what we have put in her understanding is that sex is bad, but sex is natural. We have to have sex. We are human beings. That's what we're here for. We were made through sex and interaction. So that's how children were conceived in the first place. So there's a taboo around sex, and there's a taboo around who does sex. I mean, it's forbidden for women to have sex, but how would we exist on the planet if we don't have sex?
Yeah, and when you mentioned the festival, that takes place where, it's kind of like an event where they're very proud about what's happening. They use it also as a bargaining tool to, push forward their agendas. I was just thinking that it has it's beginning to look like a double-edged sword, but how do you take away, if you're telling these women in the communities that this is not good, to some of them, they might interpret it, and correct me if I'm wrong, as you're taking away our bargaining chip. And I'm also thinking, as you were talking, that, okay, this is wrong. Women are dying. They're bleeding to death. There are health implications. This is something that you're putting forward as a way to celebrate. It's a big event where you come together and you can achieve certain goals. But now the question is, does that make it even more difficult, for somebody to intervene, to end this age-old cultural tradition, because there might be a backlash. You don't understand the culture. You don't understand what it means to the community. Is there a challenge in that when you want to intervene? Hello? Oh, did nobody hear me?
I can hear you.
Oh, now I can hear you. Could you hear me?
Yes, I could.
Okay, yeah.
Yes, in terms of intervening, I think it depends. In some communities, in fact, not so long ago, instead of in the early 90s, a lot of communities in Africa in particular, when we talk of FGM and the people that we're talking about FGM, do not relate to the communities that they were talking to. So a lot of communities in Africa felt threatened that it was an imposed idea that people were telling them to stop a practice that they've been doing for millennia. But it depends on how the conversation takes place. If we focus on what the FGM is and the impact it has on women's health or girls' health in general, then communities understand that because they can see a link. In terms of those that engage in the practice and say, well, if we take away the practice, then I have no income, I have no employment, or some people say, well, actually, it's the only way I'll get gifts from my family. It's the only way I'll see respect come my way. And so what we say to those sort of three groups, the people that conduct these practices, is to say, well, if you look at it from an aspect of human rights, the violation of the right of a girl child, if you look at it from that angle and you know that what you are doing is causing a pain and suffering in a girl's life, would you not want to find some other career or an employment in any case, maybe what you could do in your community? In most cases, when you put that to the people that practice, immediately they will tell you, no, I actually don't want to cause pain. And in fact, they will tell you, I don't even want to do this. But because communities are asking me to carry out these practices, and I have no income and I have no job, I have to do it to supplement my income, because a lot of this is about income making, Yeah. So in some cases, alternative rites of passage, which you'll find a lot in Kenya, perhaps in Uganda, is giving these practitioners another means, other occupation for them to do. And sometimes it's about teaching girls, maybe helping families to create schools, to create what would we call traditional trade, maybe tie-dyeing, maybe braiding of hair, maybe working in a farm.
Yeah, diversify. Yeah, look for other avenues. Yeah.
Look for other things. And then for the parents that say, well, I have to do this because this is what my community requires of me. But then we have to look at education of a girl child. So if you explain to them and say, okay, you have to remove the girl child from school, for example, into the practice of FGM, which takes a while, maybe 3-6 weeks, even more, for a child to recover. And then that means they lose out of education. And you've got to pay lots of money for these practitioners. Why not invest that money? Because it has been proven a girl that goes to school and is educated, her child or future family will be more healthier, will be more successful, will be more would live longer, in fact, because mother who's educated has a better chance of finding employment. So we put all these cases.
Alimatu, I spoke to somebody yesterday, and she actually told me, she works with menstruation and periods, and she told me that a girl in school can actually increase a country's GDP by 2%. 2% is not check change. It's not petty cash.
It's not petty, but if you think 20,000 girls, which is said, that's in the long, because we have to look at, in terms of Africa, for example, looking at investing in a girl child, if half the population, as Obama says, of the football team, half the team are not playing in the team, you are not going to score the goals. So bringing girls along, ensuring that girls are educated, the country thrives better, the GDP grows, and more production in terms of productivity, whether it be in creative sciences, in education, in technology. If a girl is more educated, her community thrives better. It's a proven fact. When men are working, they tend to only support their immediate family. But when a girl, a woman is employed or has a means to income, it's the entire community, because she doesn't just help her immediate family.
Yeah, she does.
Everybody around her.
Yeah, and Gas, that's okay. Gas, with regards to yes, it does take place in some African countries. I think Alimatu touched on the Asia, but I can tell you from what I have read, it does take place in India, I believe Pakistan, Sri Lanka, Indonesia, Malaysia, a lot of places, and even the Middle East as well, Alimatu, right? Palestine, Israel, Georgia, I think even Russia, I read somewhere.
South America, yes, but Uzbekistan, in terms of the Baltic states.
Yeah, Ecuador, I think I read Peru, Panama.
Colombia, Panama.
Yeah. So we are not just talking about one geographical space. This is a global thing, and I think
there's more than 30 countries in Africa. There's more countries in the Middle East, in Asia, and the Far East, and obviously the UK, America, Canada, amongst the Aborigines in Australia. And so FGM is everywhere. FGM is no longer. I think in the past, the reason why there's been more focus around Africa in terms of the number of communities that practice FGM, and obviously the reason why we rely heavily on data using Africa, because the United Nations, for example, the United Nations Population Fund, the UNFPA, and all these organizations have been working in the developing world for quite a long time, and so have gathered enough of the data to actually show that the impact of FGM. And so it has only been in the last, say, 10 years that other countries have come on board, because there has now been a renewed emphasis, focus on the health of women, because we are now looking from the health perspective to say this is affecting maternal health. There are more women dying during childbirth as a result of FGM, and so that has to be very prominent in the discourse that we're talking about gender-based violence. FGM is gender-based violence.
It is gender-based violence, absolutely. We need to start winding up. Yeah, but thank you so much. I mean, the questions, really. I mean, there's so many, and I know this is one of those topics that is very new to a lot of people. They don't understand because of the scope of the intensity of the abuse, and the trauma, and they don't understand why it still happens. So, the questions are very much like, why, why can't it just stop? Why can't they see this? Why can't they save lives?
Yeah, I think this is a healthy conversation, and for me, as an advocate and a campaigner against this, what I would like to sort of see in sort of the minds of the audience is, we can all be angry that this is happening, but until we begin to act and speak on behalf of the communities that are frightened, because in some cases, a lot of people are frightened that this is happening. But I think if we speak in a sort of common language, with an understanding that a lot of women are in pain because of this, and what are we going to do? Have healthy conversations amongst our communities, have healthy conversations like what we're doing now on the radio. And I mean, I don't tend to use words like horror, horrific, barbaric, because we have to speak from an understanding where women who are see some change. And the only way we would bring them on board and not leave anyone behind is to actually look at our sisters and our mothers and our young children, girl, child, and say, you are part of our society. And look even into the eyes of the couples, because many of these women, they themselves have been designed by misogyny, by patriarchy.
Exactly. They don't understand it. And nobody wants their culture to be defined as barbaric or horrific. You have to be respectful, you know.
You have to be respectful and actually find the good things in these cultures, which are many. These traditions, there are many good things that promote women and empower women. The only thing we're asking, let's stop harming our girls. These harmful traditional practices need to end. Can be replaced with something that's very empowering. I mean, I have an event, for example, on the 15th of December in London, and it's about showing the courage that many women, like myself, have gone through in order to make our lives livable. It's not an easy experience.
And also, Alimatu, to talk about it, you know, it's immense bravery, you know.
Let's see what goodness we have brought in our community, what changes we have brought, and let's celebrate being women, and let's celebrate our achievements, and let's see what else we can do within our safe spaces to be women and proud of being women, and no longer seeing the fact that we are molded into shapes and you know, because everyday sexism exists even in the West. You know,
in several forms. I mean, look at the sexual harassment now that is just coming out in the flood. Yeah.
You have a certain look or color even, so people think, well, I need to conform to what the society. So again, there are many other pressure. I don't see no difference to that, which say I have to have a life reduction because I have big size. That for me is just a societal pressure on women. Again, everyday sexism. I mean, a friend of mine, Emma B, puts it really nicely. You know, we have to all be in bikinis? No. So these are some of the practices. Obviously, in the case of FGM, quite pronounced in Africa, in the Middle East, and Asia. But things are changing. According to the UNICEF, the number of FGM prevalence is going down, and communities are beginning to embrace change. You look at Kenya, the alternative rites of passage is becoming very normalized now, which is helping a lot of girls, and there's more emphasis. So we want our girls to go to school.
Yeah, we're quite creative in Kenya. That's another thing. You can still have this event, but just change the context. Drama, art, so many different things. Alimatu, we're about to be, you know, y'all, we'd love to hang out with you. We have 1 minute on the clock. Alimatu, please tell us where we can find more information about your work. You have like a minute. I don't know how you're going to race through this amazing profile of yours.
Alima on ProjectACEi, and you can go on my website or Facebook. But let's connect. Let's every one of us, and everyone who's been on this program, let's connect. We can carry on with the conversation. I know we're limited by time, but we're open to dialogue. Myself and other campaigners are open to dialogue, and we want to have everybody following us. We need your support. We need the sisterhood, you know, the solidarity of sisterhood. And it's important for us to always speak from different planets, different communities on the planet of our concerns as women. And even men. We need the men, by the way. We do.
Yeah, y'all need to start saying it's okay. FGM, no FGM, I love you, we're going all the way. Yeah. Anyway, Alimatu, I thank you so much. It's been such an honor and a pleasure. I don't know, we have 1,001 more questions, and we'll stay in touch. We hope you can come back sometime.
Thank you. I certainly look forward to that, and you have a wonderful evening.
You too.
I'll try my best to respond to the email.
You did excellent. We're so grateful. Thank you so much. Okay. Thank you so much. Okay, everybody, y'all know we love you all, and we need you all to continue to change the world. Okay? Bye-bye.
I'll be a better man today. I'll be